Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video in our Node.js for Beginner series. And in this video, we will implement everything that we have learned so far and build a vanilla Node.js CRUD API movie project from scratch. We will see how we can create an HTTP server, build REST APIs, and use the Thunder client to test our APIs. So if this sounds interesting, then stick around. Also, don't forget to subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss the videos like this one. So let's get started. Alright guys, so before we start building our CRUD API project, let's understand something about the RESTful conventions. So this is the RESTful API convention we are going to use. We have the CRUD actions like get all movies, where movie is the resource that we are going to build. Then we have the get movie. If you want to get an individual movie, then we have the create movie, update movie, and delete movie. And the HTTP methods we are going to use is the get, put, post, and delete. And on the extreme right, we will see that we have the endpoints. We will have the /API/movies, which is our resource name. And then for the other cases like get, put, and delete, we are going to pass the ID for the individual movie. So now let's start with the installation of the Node.js. So I have already covered this in my previous video. So if you have missed that, then you can click on the card above and jump to it directly. So I will go to the Visual Studio Code and I have an empty project, which is the Nodejs CRUD API. Now what we are going to do is first let's create the package JSON file and make sure that in this project we are not going to use any of the framework or the library or middleware. We are going to build it with pure Node.js. Alright, so I'm going to go to the terminal, and inside the terminal what I will do is I'm going to create the package JSON file. So let's have the npm init, and now it's asking me for the project name. I'm going to give the project name as Nodejs CRUD API project. All right, I will have the first version and I will write this is vanilla Node.js CRUD API project. Then for the entry point, I will give as index.js, which is default. We don't have any test command, no git repository, no keywords. Author will be the page Malvia. So let me have the page Malvia, and then I'm going to click yes, and then it's going to give me the package JSON file. Now the only package which we are going to use is the nodemon and the .env. So let's install the nodemon first. So I'm going to install npm install --save-dev nodemon. So this nodemon will automatically restart our server whenever we make any changes. Now the other thing is we can also install the .env, because if we are going to create any environment variables, then we can use them with the help of the process code. Alright, so I see that we have the nodemon, we also have the .env. Now the next thing we will do is let's create the index.js file. So I'm going to create here index.js. Alright, or eventually let's rename it as server.js. So I will have it server.js. If I go to my package JSON, I have the nodemon, and here what I have to do is I will just change this to server.js, and I will add a script for starting my application. So I will have the start, and to the start what I want is I want to run my nodemon server.js. Alright, I will save it. And now if I want to run it, then I will just do the npm start. So I will hit enter, and you will see that my application is running. Currently we don't have anything in our server.js, so that's why we don't see anything here. Now what we are going to do is, now let's create a HTTP server. So for creating an HTTP server, what we will do is I'm going to have a constant HTTP, and this will be coming from require HTTP core module. Now you will see that as soon as I make any changes, my server gets restart automatically. Now what we have to do is I have to have a port where I will have my server to listen. So for that port, what I will do is I'm going to create process.env.port. All right, and if I'm not using the .env, then in that case I want that my 5001 port should be used. All right, now we have the port. Now since we don't have the .env file, let's create that. So I'm going to go here and I will have .env, and inside this .env I can give the port as 5000. All right, now you will see that first let's create the server, and then we will see that how we can use this environment variable port, or we can use this port. So now I will create an HTTP server. So to create an HTTP server, I will create a constant. I will have the server, and this will have the http.create server. And when we create a server, we get request response as param. All right, so now we have created our server. Now what we have to do is we need to listen the server on a port. So let's have that. So I will have the server dot listen, and this will be listening on a port. We are going to get a callback, and in this callback what we can do is we can have the console.log, and I can log it as server started on port colon. I will add my port, so this will be port, and I will just close the backtick. Oops, I made a mistake. So here I will have the backticks. All right, I will save it. Now let's give a try and let's run this. So as soon as I save it, you will see that we have the server started on port 5001. But now if you want to use the port from the environment file, what we can do is I will have to use the .env. So I will have the .env. All right, we already have that package, and for that what I will do is I will have the require, let's use the .env here, .config. All right, and I will save it. Now you see that when I save it, now my server is starting on port 5000. All right, so now we have created an HTTP server. Now let's throw a simple response, and I will say hello world in that response. So what I will do is I will have the response dot status. I will throw an status of 200. Then I will have the response dot set header. So let's have the header, and in the header what I will do is I will have the content type, and this content type will be equals to the application JSON, because we are going to deal with the JSON data. So if you don't know about the JSON data, I have a complete tutorial on that. You can click on the card above and jump to it directly. Then we are going to have the response dot write. So I want to send some data when I have it. So what I will do is I'm going to have here a JSON dot stringify. All right, and then I will pass the message here. So let's pass a message, and this message will be hello to Node.js course. Hello the page to Node.js course. All right, I will save it, and then what we have to do is we are going to use the rest.end. So let me have the response.end. All right, so the application is crashing, and that is because we see that we have an already used port. So what we are going to do is I'm going to delete this, and I will use the static port, which is 5001, which I am giving. All right, I will save it, and now we see that we have the 5001 and the server is started. All right, now if we want to see the output, let's go to the browser. So I will go to the browser, and here what I will do is I'm going to type the localhost 5001. So let me have the 5001, and you see that we have the message hello the page to Node.js, hello the page to Node.js code. So we should write proper message, and what I will do is I will simply going to change the message. All right, and here I will write hello the page, welcome to Node.js course. All right, and now if we change this, then we should be able to see it on our browser, and I will refresh it. Then you will see that hello the page, welcome to the Node.js course. All right, so by default, when we are seeing this on the browser, we are making a GET request. So if I go to the inspect element, and if I go to the network tab, and if I refresh it, then you will see that we make a GET request, and this is a GET request to the localhost 5001, and then we see a response as this. All right, but for the other methods like the post, put, and delete, we will not be able to see it in the browser. So for that, we will need an HTTP client, and to have the HTTP client, what we are going to use is we are going to use a Thunder client in our Visual Studio Code itself. So you can also use the Postman, but I feel that Thunder will be more comfortable. We have to do everything inside the Visual Studio Code itself. So I already have installed the Thunder. So what you can do is you can go to the extension, then in the extension you can search for Thunder client. So this is the Thunder client, and you can install it. And once you install it, what you can do is you will have this Thunder icon. You can simply go to the Thunder icon, and you can click on the create new request. All right, and in this new request, what we can do is I will just remove all this, and I will have the localhost colon 5001. Then I will send it. Then you will see that we get the message, and this is the message hello the page, welcome to the Node.js course. Now let's start first building with the get API. So what I will do is I will go to my server, and now I will just remove this. We don't want that. or probably what we will do is I will just keep it as it is, and I'm going to have a switch case here. So let me have a switch case for each of the methods. So what I will do is I will have a switch and I will take the method in it, so whatever the HTTP method is. And to get the HTTP method, what I can do is I can create a constant, or instead of that, what I will do is I'm simply going to take a request dot method. All right, now we have the request dot method, and then now we can start creating the cases. So the first case is for the get request. So whenever I have a get request, in that case, I'm going to make a more neat and clean way of writing it. So I'm going to take out the logic and put it into new file, and I will have a get request, and in that I'm going to pass the request and the response. Then we will have the break tag. Now we can have a similar thing for the other methods as well. So let's add them. So I will have all the methods first. I will just change this to post, and here I will have the post. So let me write the post. This will be put. I will have the put request. So let me have the put request, and actually this will change to post request. So let me have the post request, and the last one is the delete. So let me have the delete. This will change to delete request, and then we will have a default case. So for the default case, I can make use of this. So what I will do is I will cut it, and let's add it here. And here I'm going to change this to 404, and here I will just make the title. So let me have the title. I will just write the not found. All right, and for the message we can have the route not found. So let me remove this. I will have the route not found. I will save it. So now if I go and want to test it, then if I go here and let's change this to options, and if I send it, then you will see that we have not found, route not found, but we can make use of the put, post, delete, and get. So now next thing what we will do is let's implement this get request. So for that, what I will do is I'm going to go to my project, and here I'm going to create a new folder, and I will have the methods here, and I'm going to create 4 files. So first will be the get request.js. All right, next will be the post request.js. Then I'm going to create the delete request.js, and the last one will be the put request.js. Now what I will do is, now we have all the 4, and we also need to create some dummy data. So what I will do is I'm going to go and create a new folder. I will have the data inside that, and then I'm going to create the movies.json. I already have some dummy data, so I'm just going to paste some dummy data here. So this I have 3 set of movies where I have their ID, which is in UUID. Then I have a title, year, genre, rating, and I have 3 records. All right, just for the sake of simplicity. Then what we will do is let's go to the get. And inside the get, first I have to do the module.export, and when I export, what I will get is I'm going to get the request and response. All right, I will save it, and similarly I will copy this in all the files, for post also, for delete as well, I will save it, and for put as well. And now what I can do is I can import all the 4 files in my server.js file. So if I go to the server.js, then I can here go and write constant get request, and this will be equals to the require, and I will have the methods, and inside the methods I'm going to have the get request. I'm going to copy this for the other 4 as well, other 3 as well. This will now change to post, this will change to put, and I will change this to delete. This will also change to post, this will get changed to put, and then this will get changed to delete. All right, so I have all these 4 methods: get request, post request, put, and delete, and I'm using them here. And now I have to write about the get request. So one more thing I want to do is what I will do is whenever I'm calling this get request function or post request function, and I have the request response, I have to manipulate the request here. So what I will do is I will have the request. I will create a new property on the request, which will be movies. And then I'm going to pass the movies. So now you must be wondering what this movies is. This movies is the data that we are going to have. So let's import that as well. So I will have the let movies, because the movies is going to be changed when we add new movies or updates. So we are not going to use a constant variable here. Then I'm going to have the require, and in that I will have the data / movie JSON. And now what we have to do is, if we go to the get request, then in the get request, first what we will do is we are going to fetch all the movies. So to fetch all the movies, what I will do is if my request.url is equals to I will have the equals to, I will have the API slash movies. So we have seen in our slide that for get all request, we are going to have a URL as API slash movies, which will be our resource. Then in that case, I will send the response. I will set the status code. So let's have the status code, and the status code will be 200. I will also have the request.set header, and here I will set the header as content type application slash JSON. All right, then we have to write the rest.write. We need to send the data. So to send the data, I will just do a JSON.stringify, and I'm going to have the request.movies. So this is the movies which we are fetching from the movie JSON file. All right, and then in the end, I will have the rest.end. So we have it, but somebody trying to call the API with API slash some other resource. Then in that case, what I will do is I will have an else, that if this URL doesn't match, then in that case, I just want to write the rest.write head, and that will be 404. I will have the content type application JSON. So let me add it here. This will change to colon, and then I will have the rest.end. And in this, what I will do is I'm simply going to add the same thing here. So if I go here, and if we go here, then I'm going to add this same JSON. I will copy this and let's add it here. All right, I will save it. And now if we want to test it, then let's go to the Thunder client. I will go here, and then we have the slash. So if we try to access this one, and if we run it, then we see that the route doesn't found slash API. If we try it, we still get slash route doesn't found. But if we go to the movies, and if I send the request, then we see the data. So this is the data we are fetching it from our movie JSON file. All right, so this is our get all movies API. Now, if you make change here, and instead of this you pass or you misspell something, and if you try to fetch it, then we don't have such a route. Now let's find how we can fetch an individual movie. So in that case, we are going to pass an ID. So if I have movies here, and if I run it, then we are going to pass this UUID in our URL. So I'm going to copy this, I'm going to have it here, and this will be the request URL. So first we have to get this UUID from the request URL. So first I will find the base URL. So what is my base URL is, let's have the base URL, and the base URL will be the request.url.substring. So I'm trying to find a base URL, which is this one. And then I'm trying to find the ID of the movie which we want. So for that, I'm going to use a substring, and I want a substring from request.url.last index. So what I'm doing here is that I need a substring which starts from here, and then it should end at here. So for this, what I need is I need the last index of a slash, because you will see there are multiple slash. So if I get the index of this slash, then I will be able to get a substring from 0 to the whatever the index is plus 1. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm finding the last index of this, and then I'm adding a +1 to it. All right, I will save it, and I can also do a console log so that we can see what is the base URL. So this is one thing. Next, I need the UUID. So for that, what I will do is I'm going to have the UUID, and then here I'm going to do a split. So let's have a request.url.split, and I want to split with a slash. Then it's going to give me an array, all the URL values, like it will give me the API, movies, and then this UUID. So let's do the console log of that as well. So I'm going to do a console.log, and I will have the ID here. Now, if I go and check the terminal, so let's open the terminal, and this was the terminal. And what I will do is I'm going to fire a request. So when I fire a request, you will see that the URL is not found, which is correct. And we see that this is the API movies, which is the base URL. And the second thing is we are doing a split of it. So this give me API, movies, and the UUID. So this UUID I need it. So what I will do is I'm going to have the index of 3 here. All right. So now I have that. Now what I can do is first I need to check whether the UUID which is passed by the client is a valid UUID. So for that, I will create a regex, and what I will do is I'm going to go here. I will have a constant regex v4. So this is a regular expression for UUID v4, and then I will have a new regex. All right, and then I'm going to paste a regular expression which will check for the UUID. So you will easily find it on the internet. It's nothing fancy. So what I will do is I'm going to add it here. I will save it. All right, we have it. Now, the first thing what I will do is let's remove this console log. We don't want them now. Okay. And what we have to do first thing that I will come here and I will have an else if. Then in this else if, what I will do is I'm going to first check whether the UUID which is passed is a valid UUID or not. So for that, I will do a regex v4 dot test, and then I'm going to pass my ID here. So this is my ID. So I will do, and I will add it here, and this is going to return me true or false. So I want that if this is false, then in that case I need to return a response, and my response will be let me copy this and I'm going to add it here. All right, and then in that case my response will be 400, and I will say here validation failed because it's not a valid UUID. So I will have the validation failed, and then here I will write it as UUID is not valid. All right, I will save it. Okay, so we have handled this case, and now if the UUID is a valid UUID, then in that case what we will do is let's come here, and what we will do here is that here I will have the else if, and in this case I will just check the base URL first, because someone can also pass the UUID with a different base URL. So I have to check that as well. So I will have the API slash movies, or let's just first let me show why I'm adding this. So what I will do is now here in this case we have that if we do the regex.test with ID and we get that it's a valid UUID, then in that case we need to return the individual movie. So for that, what I will do is I will have the response.set header, and we will just copy this so that we don't waste time. All right, I have the header. I will also copy the response status. So let's have the status code, and then I'm going to copy this too as well. So let's go here and I will copy them as well. Now what we have to send back, we need to send back an individual movie which a user is requesting. So for that, what we will do is let's filter out the results. So I'm going to create a let filtered movie, and this will be equals to the request.movies, which contains all the movies, and then I'm going to apply a filter on that. When I apply a filter, I will get an individual movie. All right, and then what I will return is I will return that if my movie.id is equals to ID, then it's going to return me a new array. So I have that, and then what I have to do is there will be a case that the movie which we are trying to retrieve it is not in our file. So in that case we need to return that the movie not found. So what I will do is that if my filtered movie dot length is greater than 0, then in that case we know that we have found the movie. So for that, I will have my res dot status code. So I will cut this and I will add it here. I will have my response status code. I will have the res dot write. Let's write the response, and here the response will be JSON dot stringify, and I will pass the filtered movie. All right, I will just do a res dot end and I will save it. So this is the case when we have the movie in our database or in our file, but if the movie is not present, then in that case what I will do is I will have an else, and then in that case I want to pass I'm going to copy this, I'm going to add it, and I will pass 404 because the movie not found. And here I will have the error message. So let me copy the error message from here. All right, I will add the error message here, and here it will be not found, and I'm going to write movie not found. Then we have res dot end. All right, and now we can remove this. So we have covered almost all the cases here. Now let's go and give a try. So what I will do is first we are going to fetch a movie and I will send. All right, you will see that we find a movie, but someone if change this resource to test and then they try to send a request, you will see that they still find a movie. So that's where what we can do is when we made this check, we can also made an end operator, And along with this, we can check the base URL. So if this base URL is equals to /API/movies, then only we should be able to entertain the request. So I will save it. And now if I try this, then you will see that the route not found. So I have to change this back to movies. So let me have the movies. All right, I will save it. And there is a case that if a user is just manipulating this and trying to find it, then you will see that we don't have movie with this UUID. And if we have a user who is just trying some random gibberish and send the request, then we see that the UUID is not a valid UUID. So we made a lot of checks on this, but we build our get API and get an individual movie. So if we go back here, then this is the code base. I know we are repeating a lot of things. We can write it in, we can make some common files and use it. But for now, I think we can do the refactoring later on. So the next thing I want to show you is how you can create a new movie. So for that, let's go to the post. So in the post, what we will do is I can have the if request.url. If this is equals to /API/movies, then in that case, I will just have a try catch block. So let's have a try and catch block. And then what we want is we need to get the data which a client is sending to the server. So to get the data, what we can do here is that first let me do a console.log, and I will have the request body. And then for this request body, what I will do is I will have the request.body. All right, I will save it. And now if I go and see, then we should be able to see the request body. So what I will do is let's go to the terminal, and then inside the terminal, if we go here and I change this to post now, and let's remove this, I have to create a body. So let's have a body, and inside the body, what we can do is we can take the data from here. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to add this in my Thunder. All right, so this is a JSON data. We don't want user to pass the ID because we are going to generate the ID. All right, so we have the body, and now if I'm going to send it, then we see that the body is undefined. And that is because whenever we have the data stream which is sent by a client to the server, we have to make use of something called body parser. And since we are not using Express, so we don't have the body parser. Otherwise, we will just install the body parser and we have passed the input request. So what we are going to do is we're going to build something similar to the parser, which is going to stream the data from the client to the server. So what I will do is I'm going to create a new folder here. All right, and this new folder will be the util folder. So I'm going to create some utilities here. Inside that, I'm going to create a new file. I will just name it as body parser.js. And in this body parser.js, let's have a module.exports. And then I'm going to have a request here. This request is the one which is going to get us from the client. So I will have the request, and let's have the arrow function. Now what I will do is I will get the request, then I'm going to return a promise. So let's create a promise. All right, when we create a promise, we get a resolve and a reject method. And then what I will do is I'm going to have a try catch block. So let's have a try catch, and if there is an error, we are going to reject the promise. So I'm going to have a console.log. I will log the error, and then I'm going to reject the promise. So this is done. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a body variable here, and then I'm going to create, and since Node.js is an event driven, I'm going to create a event to get the stream of data. So I will have the request dot on. This is going to have a data, and whenever we have the callback, it's going to give us a chunk of the data. All right, and then we are just going to append that to the body variable. So we're going to have the chunk, and then whenever we are finished with the stream of data, we are going to end it. So I will have the request dot on, and when we are finished, in that case, I will also get a callback, and then I'm going to resolve my promise with the data which I have. So I'm going to have resolve, and then I will have the JSON dot parse, because I'm going to get the data in the form of a string. So I will have the JSON parse, and I will have the body. It's very simple. All right, I will save it. Okay, so now we have this, and we have also used the module export. Let's import it here. So what I will do is I'm going to go here and import it. So I will have a constant request body parser, and this will be equals to the require. Let's have the util slash body parser. And since we are also going to use crypto a core module in order to generate the UUID. So I will have the crypto, which is equals to the require, and I will have the crypto. All right, so now we have this, and now what we can do is since we have created this as an async await, since it's a promise, so let's have an async, and then when we use it, I will just change this to async await. So let's add the async here. All right, when we have the async, first thing let's do, let's have a body, and I'm going to call the request body parser. I'm going to pass my request dot body inside that, or I will pass the request, sorry. And now if we try and see, then we should be able to get the body. So I'm going to remove this and I will add it here. Let's go and let's check. If I run it, then you see the promise is pending because we haven't used the await keyword. So yeah, so we have to use an await here. All right, I will save it, and now let's give a try. I will send it. Then you will see that we have the request body. Now we have to take this request body and we have to insert it in our movie.json file. So let's do that. So what I will do is whenever I get my body, I first have to create a UUID for that record. So let's have a body dot ID. I'm going to create a new property, and I will have the crypto dot random UUID. This is going to create an UUID for me. And once I have the UUID, what I will do is I'm going to have the request dot movies dot push, and I'm going to change this to body, push the body. All right, I have that. And then once we are done with this, what I will do is I'm going to send a response, which will be the response dot write head. And then whenever I create a new record, the HTTP status code will be 201, which is content is created. I will just have the content type application slash JSON. All right, and then I will just do a response dot end. All right, and if there is an error, what we are going to do is we are just going to use the message here. So I'm going to copy this and then I'm going to add it in my post. So I will just close this body parser and then we can add it here. And I will also want to log the error. So let's have the console.log. I will have the error. And then here, let's have the response.write head for the error case. So if there is an error, I will have a 400. I will pass the content as application JSON. So let me add it here. All right. And then I will have the rest.end, and then I need to pass my response. So I will cut this and let me add it here. And here we have the validation failed, and then I'm going to write the request body is not valid. All right, now I will save it. And since we have an issue, so I will just remove this and I will save it. And here also we have a problem because it should not be the part of this, it should be the part of this. I will save it. So there is an error. Okay, I will just remove this 2 lines and we should be fine. I made some mistake with the copy paste. I will save it. All right, so now our server is running, and you will see that if I go here and if I run this, so if I run this, then you will see that we have, let me minimize this and I will just close this for now. And then you will see that we have 201 created. And if we want to fetch it, then let's go and let's run it. Then you will see that we have Avengers updated here. Then we have the avatar 2. We have again Avengers updated, but with a different UUID. So now we are able to create it. As soon as I refresh my application, I will not be able to fetch the data which I just created because I am not updating the file. So if I go here, you will see that we still have the 3 records. So what we have to do is I need to write the data into the file so that I have my data persisted in the file, and we use this movie JSON as a database. So what we are going to do is we need to write it into the file. So for that, we can make use of a file system. So I will create a new utility file here. All right, I will write it as write to file.js, and it's a good demonstration of using this. So what I will do is I'm going to create a constant fs. This will have a require fs, and along with the file system we will also need the path so that we can construct the path of our movie JSON file. So what I will do is I will have the constant path require, and I will have the path. Since we need this operation to be in sync, because whenever we have a successful write in our file, then only we need to send a 201 status code to the user that the record is created. So let's have a module dot exports, and this is going to give us the data that we want to write into the file. I will get the data, and then what we will do is we are going to have the fs dot write file sync, and then we are going to define the path. So I will have the path dot join. All right, I'm going to use the dir name, which is going to give me the directory. Then I need to go one level up. Then we need to go to the data directory, and then we have the movies.json. And then the next part will be the data that we want to write into the file. So for that, it will be in a JavaScript object. So I'm going to make this into a string. So let's do a JSON dot stringify for the data that we are going to have. Then we will have the UTF character encoding. I'm going to have this in a try catch so that we can catch the error if we have any problem in writing it in the file. So I'm going to cut it. I'm going to add it here, and then I will have a catch. So I'm going to have a catch here. I will have the error, and then I will just do a console.log of the error. I will save it. So now we have it. We have the path of our file which we want to have, and this is the path dir name, one level up directory data. Then we have movies.json, and then we just do a JSON stringify of the data that we want to write into the file, and then we have the UTF-8. Okay, now let's go here, and what we will do in the post is we are going to import it. So I will go here. I will have the constant write to file, and this will be equals to the require. I will have the util slash write to file. All right, I will save it. Now what we need to do is, before sending the status code to the client, we need to write it to the file. So I'm going to go here. I will have the write to file, and I will pass the request dot movies, because that is containing my complete movie set. I will save it, and in case of an error, we are going to catch the error. And if we have a different route, then in that case we can just use the same which we did in our get, that the route not found. So let's add this else as well. So I'm going to copy this, and let me add it here. So I'm going to add it here. I will save it. Okay, now let's go and let's try. So I have the local host 501 and movie APIs. I want to create the movie. I will have the Avengers and game. I will save it, and then let's run it. So if I run it, then we see that so we get the movies. So this is all movies. I want to make a post request for this to create a new record, and I will send it, and we see that 201 the request is created. And if we go into the movies, then if we refresh it, then we see that the movie is not being returned into the file. So that means there might be some issue. So what we can do is, let's go to the console and let's check. So I'm going to go to the console, and here we see that we have an error, and the error, it says that write file sync invalid argument type. The data argument must be of type string or an instance of a buffer or received data. All right, so what we will do is let's go back here, and I'm going to console log the data. So I will have a console.log and the data to write in file. All right, and then here what I will do is I'm going to pass the data. All right, I will save it. We will see the terminal for it. So I'm going to first remove this, and let's give a try. So let's close this as well. I'm going to close delete as well, package JSON as well, and let's give a try. So I'm going to run it again, and here if we go and see, then we get this data and we still see the same error. So let's go and check what we did wrong. So if I go here, we have JSON.stringify of the data that we are receiving from here. And then if I remove this, I will save it, and let's give a try. So if I send it again, then in that case, if we go to the terminal and if we see it, all right, so now we did a mistake here. So if we have a path.join, then here the path is completed. All right, After that, we have the JSON.stringify.data, and then what we can do is we can have the UTF-8 here. So we did a mistake of a bracket. Now I will save it. Okay, so we have everything. I will just remove this, and then I will have a semicolon. So now we have this, and now let's give a try. So if I go back here and if I run it again, then we see that we are able to get the data. So if I go to the movies and if I save it, then we should be having a 4 records. So first one, second one, third one, and the fourth one, which is the Avengers Endgame. So this is what we created. If we go and see, then this is what created. So let's create another one. So this time I will create an Avengers Infinity War. Now I will make a request and it says 201 created. Let's go and let's get it. So if I send the request, then we should be able to see Avengers Infinity War. So if I scroll down, then we have this Avengers Infinity War. So now we see that we have the get and the post API. The next one is I'm going to cover is the delete one. So let's go and let's see how we can delete a record from our movies database. All right, so I'm going to close this. I will also close this. I will also close this. I'll just keep this one, and let's close this as well. And I'm going to close this as well. Now let's go to the delete. And here what we have to do is in the delete also, similar to get an individual movie, we need the ID. So what I will do is I'm going to just copy this, because we are going to have the same information here as well. And then what we have to do is we have to check for the UUID. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to have it here. So if we have the regex v4 test UUID, then in that case I want to send a response as the UUID is not a valid UUID. All right, but if this is a valid UUID, then in that case I will have an else if, and my base URL will be very similar to this one. I'm going to copy this and let's add it here. Now if we have the base URL equal to this and we have a regex which is also a valid UUID, then in that case we need to delete the movie from our movies.json. So first I want to find the index of the movie which I want to delete. So what I will do is I'm going to have a constant index. I have the request.movies to get the access to the movies. So I'm going to have dot movies. All right, and then I will have the find index. All right, I'm going to find for a movie, and then what I have to return here is I will return if the movie ID is matched. So I will have the movie ID is equals to movie ID. I will just do a strict checking. So I will just have triple equals to. So now I have the index, and once I have the index, what I have to do is there may be a chance that the movie which we are trying to delete is not at all present in our movie JSON. So in that case, we are going to get an index. So I will have the index. If this index is equals to -1, then in that case, I need the movie not found. So let's go here, and it will be very similar that if the length is less than 1, then less than 0, then we have the movie not found. So let's copy this and let's add it here. So we have that movie not found. But if we don't have something like this, then what we will do is we have the movie. So let's now delete the movie from the movie.json. So what we will do is I'm going to do a request.movies, and I will use splice. So let me have the splice, and I want to splice from the index, and I have to splice the one record from that index. All right, so that will remove, and then I want to write it into the file, the updated movie data. So what I will do is write to file, and then this is the updated movies after deleting the movie. So I'm going to write it, and then we can just send the response back. So I will have the response head, and whenever we delete, we pass a HTTP status code as 204, and then we will have the content type application /JSON, and then I will just have the res.end JSON.stringify. I will pass the request movies. So this is not required. You need to pass the JSON movies, which is the remaining movies we have after deletion of the movie. So now let's go here and let's give a try. So first let's fetch all the movies, and I want to delete this Avengers updated. So I'm going to copy this. All right. Probably we have Avengers updated entry more than once. So okay, so we don't have it. So I will go here and I will add it here and I will fetch it. So we see that we have this ID. Now we need to delete this movie. So we see that we have the movie. Now we need to delete this movie. I'm going to call the delete method and then let's fire it. And we see that we have an error. So there must be some mistake. So let's go to the terminal and let's check the error. So we see that the right file is not defined. And if we go here, then we see, okay, we don't have it. So let's import it. So I'm going to have the constant write to file. This will be equals to the require. And I'm going to have it from the util. So let's go to the util and then I will have the file. All right, I will save it and let's give a try again. So now this time if I run it, then we see that 204 no content and it's deleted. So now if we go and fetch that movie, so if I want to fetch this, I will save it, then you will see that the movie not found because we have deleted that movie, and we will also not see that movie in our movies.json file. So if we go and we see that we don't have that movie, I mean just updated. So now we have also covered the delete method, and now the last one is the put if we want to update any existing movie. So let's go and let's check that. So what we need is first we are using a put request. That means we are going to receive the data stream from the client to the server. So for that we will need the request body parser. So what I will do is let's remove this delete and I will go to the post and let's get these two. And I will go here, let's import this. And since we also need the UUID, which we want to have an updated record. So for that, we will need the base URL ID. And so let's copy this. Let's add it here. Since we are doing multiple copy paste, we can optimize this code, but since we can do it later on as well once we are done with our functionality. But for now, let's keep it as it is. And now we need to check the UUID which we have received from the client is a valid or not. So let's make a check on that. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to add it here. So if it's not valid, then in that case, we are going to, so I have to add it here. And if it's a valid UUID, then what we will do is the next thing we will do is we are going to have an else if we are going to use the base URL and if it's the valid UUID. So I'm going to copy and add it here. Now what we have to do is let's have a try catch because we need to parse the data stream which we are receiving from our client. So I'm going to have a let body and this will be equals to the await request body parser. I need to pass my request here. So let's have the request. Since I'm using await, I have to add an async. So let's add an async to the function. So I have that and I have to add the catch as well. So let me have the catch which will have the error block, and then I'm going to simply write the console.log error, and if there is an error I will just write that the request body is not a valid request body. So I will just copy that from here. All right, I will copy and I will paste it. All right, so we have that case. But if it's a valid request body, we get the body from the body parser. And then what we have to do is first we need to find the index of the record that we want to update. So let's copy that from our delete because we have that functionality built there. So this is going to give me the index. Then also if the record is not present, which I want to delete, I want to throw that the movie not found. So I have to copy this as well. So let me copy these two. Oops. So it's more kind of a similar functionality we have here. So I'm going to copy and I'm going to add that here. But if if the index is found and we need to update that record, so let's have the else here. Then in that case, what we will do is if we have the movie and we also have the index, then I will do the request dot movies and I want to update the movie with this index, and then I will have the same UUID. So nothing is changed on the UUID, but we will have a new body which we have received from the client, the updated one. Now we have updated that record in the request dot movies, which is the movies JSON. Now let's write the updated movie JSON file. So I'm going to write the file with the updated movies. So I will have the request dot movies, and then we need to send the response to the client. So what I will do is response write head. All right, and then we have a 200 in case of an successful updation of the record. Then I will have the content type application JSON and then response dot end, and with the response dot end we will have the JSON dot stringify request movies. And I mean I'm sending the response back with the updated movie which we have updated in the database. So for that, I will use the index here. All right. And if there is no case of this, then in that case, we will just add the else. And that else would be this one. So else, let me copy this. I will add it in the delete as well. And I will also add it in the post as put as well. So I'm going to add it here as well. So we have it, and now we have written all the operations. So let's go and let's give a try. So what I will do is I will also close this. Let's go here, and here let's start with first get all the movies. So I'm going to remove and fetch all the movies. So here you will see that we have all the movies. We have total of 1, 2, 3 and 4 records. Now we are going to post it. So we are going to create a new movie. So let's have a new movie, and here I'm going to write as Mission Impossible. Then I will just change that it was in 2000. I will change the IMDb rating as a 9.9. Oops, 8.9, sorry. And now I will send it request. All right, I see that 201, the record is created. So I should be able to see the record. Oops, I clicked 2 times. So that means 2 records will be created. So now let's go and get, and I will send it. And we should be able to see 2 records with the Mission Impossible. So if I scroll, we have 2 records with Mission Impossible. Now I want to delete it. So what I will do is I'm going to copy this. Let's fetch it first. So if I send it, then we see that we have the movie. Now I want to delete this. So I'm going to fire a delete request, and we see that 204, no content. That means it's deleted. So if I go and try to get it again, I will see that the movie is not found. Now what I will do is I will just remove, and I will fetch all the movies again. And now this time what I will do is I want to update this Mission Impossible with Mission Impossible 1 or 2. So what I will do is let's have Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. All right, I will make a put, and I will just get the ID. So this is the ID which I want to update. I will copy this. I will add the ID here, and I will also change the IMDb rating to 7.9. All right, I will change this to 2015, and let's do a send. I do a send, then you will see that this is the updated record which I have received back. And if I want to check that, I will just do a get request. I will send it, and I get the data back. So I can also do the get all movies, and we should be able to see the updated movie, which will be the Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. So this way we have created the vanilla Node.js CRUD API project. We have the get, put, post and delete. And we have also covered some of the responses of different cases, like the UUID is not valid. We did some validation on the data. We also did some validation on the routes. We did validation on the movie records in case we don't find a movie. So we just throw that movie not found. So this was a basic project, but there's a lot of things to learn. If we are just beginner in the Node.js, then there are a lot of things to run. I will push the code in the GitHub so that you can take it for the reference. And in the coming videos, we are going to explore more on the Node.js and the Express.js. So that's all I have in this video. I hope you liked the video. A thumbs up is appreciated. You can also connect with me via Facebook or Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter for latest updates. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss the videos like this one. Thank you. Thanks for watching.